Theon banned away, pretty stock standard from what we've seen so far in the tournament. The Rise, though, feels like an immediate takeaway from Doinb.
And the last time these two teams faced off, the Kiana, rather, was left through the ban phase, went to the second phase on FPX's side as well. Of course, that went into Tian's hand to great effect here. So personally, if I am GAM, I'm either getting rid of that or first picking that for myself, because I think Kiana is absolutely busted on the current patch.
Definitely a strong champion, but there is a lot of other things to worry about as well. If you're concerned about, giving LWX his favorite champion in Kaisa, where he was 10-0 throughout the LPL. Obviously, they're heavily targeting Doinb. The Kayle, the Rise, his last two games. Yes, there was help when he was playing the Kayle, but he did end up laning phase ahead of a Jace who went Ignite, who went Airy. He was taking his plates, and he was scaling really well into that game. So certainly are worried about what Doinb could do to them.
And I loved Renekton first pick coming in from Zeros, giving him a little bit more fuel for the fire to go toe-to-toe with Gimgoon on the top side of the map, because while he looked like he was building a massive CS lead on that Kennen, Gimgoon was still finding those solo kills.
Yeah, he really did turn that matchup right around. I also think that this is a lane that is super strong for 2v2s when you bring the jungler and get him involved as well. Now, FPX did leave open the Nocturne that they banned last time these two teams faced, so I wonder if Levi wants to go for that. I personally don't love that pick. I see Kiana open. I see early game champions like the Lee Sin having higher priority here, just because I think you have to bust FPX open in the early game.
And it's interesting now that we're seeing the Nautilus hub over. Kaisa Nautilus, obviously an incredibly powerful bottom side of the map, but it does mean leaving the Kiana up and available for Levi to take away if he wants.
You've also got to remember that Nautilus can easily be going mid for Doinb. It was one of his favorite champions playing AP Nautilus. We did see Crisp already run it in this tournament, though, and he played it a lot in LPL, so certainly surprised if it go to bot. But we are going to get Heimerdinger, and I'm expecting this to go down to the bot lane for Xin.
And I wonder if they want to put a Morgana next to it. Of course, we saw that duo played earlier on in the tournament, but against something like Nautilus, if you want to run another, mage in that bottom lane to have push, to be able to thwart the all-in attempts of a Nautilus, that definitely could come out later on in this draft.
I think that makes a lot of sense. It's also going to allow them to play away from their bottom lane. You can play Heimer, fairly self-sufficient. You have the Kled, you have the Renekton, so very aggressive solo laners here for GAM. And we just now need to see some sort of a strong early game jungler for Levi to be able to pair up with these guys and really bring the aggression to FPX.
And I love Kiaya's Kled, man. Seeing those outplays in the mid lane, watching him get the perfect remount at the perfect time to find the 1v1 kill was incredible. And to see him potentially do it against Doinb, the OG master of Kled mid, would be incredible.
That's what I'm wondering. Is this mid lane Kled? We saw Kiaya play it last time, but they still could flip between both the Renekton and the Kled here.
Depends how aggressive they want to be into this GP.
Yeah.
Because Kled early game can be very effective into Gangplank. Gimgoon, though, I think one of the best Gangplank players in the world. This is his best champion, and he really is good at withstanding these aggressive matchups and helping to snowball LWX on his Kaisa on the bottom side. I really like to think of Gimgoon almost as an impact-style player, but perhaps even better and really strong mechanically.
And that's always a scary thing to face off against. Now, looking forward in this draft, great bans coming through from FPX here. Two mage jungle bans here. AP junglers. Now the Gragas is left open. I think Tian might want to pick that up for himself, because when you show two, AD solo lanes, you almost always want to put a mage into the jungle. Otherwise, those solo lanes just build ninja tobbies, and you're pretty useless in the 2v2.
That can be problematic, but having Heimer in that bottom lane, it's not going to be a physical damage marksman down there. So as long as you get to that team fight stage, I don't think it'll be too bad.
And despite us talking about the strength of the Morgana, it did remain untouched. The focus instead very much on the jungle role. As predicted, Ender, the Gragas is locked in. All three popular AP junglers have now been taken away. We kind of have to dig deep into Levi's bag of tricks if you wanted to find anything.
I mean, if he really wants to go ham, it'll be the Olaf here for early game domination when you have two very strong soul lanes as well. That could be a great setup here for Levi if he wants to look to snowball against Tian early in the game.
This could be Shen support here from Slay. Actually does set up fairly well with the grenade taunt combo. You can utilize that either direction, and also being able to ult in on a Kled flying in on a Renekton, you can get really aggressive.
Could it be Kled jungle here? I don't know.
Possible.
There's a lot of flexible picks for GAM.
But the first clear for Kled, I've actually played Kled jungle a lot. It's really bad, so I would be surprised. I think we are going to get the Lee Sin and just round out what is a very exciting, very aggressive comp here from GAM. They are excellent at utilizing these ultimates to engage, and Nocturne seems to make sense, right? Nocturne, Shen, that pairing is great, alongside the Kled. Renekton getting the speed up from that Kled ultimate also to follow into these team fights and dogpile in onto FunPlus.
And replicating so much of the success that we saw versus J-Team. Yes, they no longer have a Kai'Sa, but they've got the Shen, the Nocturne, and the Kled to allow you to run face first into your opponent and start a fight whenever you want.
The only weird thing about this draft is...
Oh my god, it's Malphite!
It's Malphite! All right, we got hard dive versus hard dive. It's all about the team fights.
Okay, Malphite is incredible into Kled.
It's Malphite mid lane.
Yeah, as someone who's played a lot of Kled, this is one of the most obnoxious matchups here. You can actually W-max on the Malphite and just clap him anytime he tries to trade with you. With your E attack speed slow, it's very difficult for Kled to actually burst you down. And post 6, if he's ever dismounted, with Gragas Malphite, that ultimate combo, you can easily burst him out before he can actually get remounted. So lots of engage here. Certainly the ability to play towards the bottom side of the map for LWX. I think this is a great comp from FunPlus.
First time we've seen Malphite in a very, very long time. And I love it. I love games like this because these are the great ruiners of solo queue. If Malphite pops off mid lane, if Kled pops off mid lane, someone is going to have a very miserable experience later in the day. But of course, two very unique compositions set up. The Malphite kind of a wild card. We're going to see how it functions in and outside of the lane, as mentioned, but already seeing a lot of that GAM flare as well as Doonby busting out a pocket pick. Here we go, ladies and gentlemen. GAM versus FPX, the first game in a day of deciders for Group B. Two teams will leave today empty-handed. Two more will move on to the quarterfinals.
I've got to take a look here at the mid lane. Grass, to me, is going to signify that it's very likely tank Malphite. I was wondering if it would be AP or tank or maybe some sort of hybrid. That does remain to be seen, but generally, with the grasps, you are going to be building defensively. And with triple AD topside, Nocturne, Renekton, as well as the Kled, tank seems very effective.
I mean, we're going to see a lot of Ninja Tabis in this game. You know, I mentioned it in the draft earlier on, but that's definitely something that these the side of FPX should be going for, just sort of absorb that all-in threat. And as we look even further forward, I think that both comms are super focused on diving in, right? You know, looking at the team fights. There is some side lane pressure, I think, for GAM, you know, potentially unlocking this Kled, but both teams should be diving in. And that's where I'm sort of skeptical about this Heimerdinger pick for Xin in the bottom lane, is because that's not a champion that wants to go forward. Yes, you do have some long-range tools, but that guy wants to sit back and have you run into his towers.
I guess he's going to be trying to perhaps back them up with the ultimate grenade, which has pretty good range. And also, you could end up with these split fights, and that's something that GAM is often very good at. If you have the melee champions diving in, and you're actually getting dove on by Doonby and some of these other champions, you can ult turret, you can drop into the Zonias and try to survive.
I guess in theory, if Levi pops the Paranoia in the middle of a fight, you don't actually see the grenades coming towards you. So instantly out of the fog of war, that long-range spell is just going to be able to CC you and make you have a pretty tough time.
One little thing I want to watch here is they actually gave the ward kill over to Zero, so he will get level 2, 1 creep faster than perhaps Gimgoon is expecting. So has hit level 2 and want to see if he can get a good trade.
And of course, when we talk about this matchup, we so often are going to be looking at topside, given how the last matchup played out. And for Zeros, the pressure is on him. He's on this strong early game champion. Gimgoon always has that scaling to fall back into. So need to see him get some work done here in the early lane. And for now, it is just a bit of pressure in his favor and moving down potentially to place a bit of vision.
Now, looking at this early game jungle pathing from Tien, it's a little bit surprising to see him take the Raptors and the red buff, but not actually go for the Krugs. The amount of experience that camp gives you very early on to the matchup is super, super valuable. But maybe just wanting to get down towards this bottom side a little bit faster because that lane is pushing.
Yeah, he could be expecting Heimer to just be trying to push for plates, and if Heimer did do that, you have the gank assist here from Nautilus, the ability to get on top of these guys and maybe punish them.
Of course, you see in the mid lane, interesting trading pattern. Just so hard for Kled to sustain a trade, even with Conqueror proccing. Just the attack speed reduction on the ground time there for Malphite makes it now. And now that he's demounted, Kia is going to have a much harder time in this lane phase.
Yeah, as soon as he hops back on, though, it becomes really unfair as Doinb has to walk away, the wave pushing against him as well. Now, one thing Levi likes to do a lot in his early games is look for these early windows to gank or dive around the top lane between the 3-minute and 3:30 mark, but when he's on this Nocturne, it's not as good a possibility. We also see Zeros usually will walk in and ward the enemy Krug camp to see where the enemy jungler is going to be, but in this game, he didn't actually go for that. So if he had, Levi could have walked in and managed to steal away that super high priority camp, but instead won't be able to quite find that.
And for now, it has been, all things considered, a relatively passive game. Usually in a GAM game or an FPX game, I kind of expect a gank on first rotation, but both junglers seem to be okay farming up. That might change, though, as Gragas has now back, gotten those boots, gotten that Predator. Got to keep our eyes on TN to potentially make a first play around the top side as he moves towards those Krugs.
Yeah, you could see a lot of blue side assist pings over onto those Krugs, so it seemed like they were debating if they actually wanted to try to invade there and perhaps meet Tien, but we do see Levi just go back to base. He's going to take the reset, grabs his challenging smite and a longsword, and the duel there should be heavily in his favor.
Yeah, it's the weakness of going for the Nocturne as opposed to a Lee Sin as well, because Nocturne doesn't have any way to, you know, traverse over the walls and get out of that situation, so it would have been a very risky play for him to go to. Nevertheless, this should be an experience plus clear for Levi because he went for his Krugs earlier on. Krugs on their first spawn give you 30% reduced EXP and also reduce even more for the level you are above them. So Tion got much less off of his first Krug clear than Levi did here, so Levi is going to be powering towards his level 6 mark.
And that's very important because it's all about level 6. I mean, if the Malphite didn't already give it away, the Gragas, you know, the GP, you've got a Nocturne, you've got a Kled, the Heimer, pretty much everyone wants to rush to level 6 as quickly as they can. And I think for the side of FPX, have to respect the potential for this Nocturne to come out of anywhere. As Levi races forward, but since he is spotted out on a ward, we'll make it a lot clearer as to when they can expect that to happen.
I'm kind of expecting GAM to try to use their first ultimates towards the top side. If you can dive Gimgoon with this sort of 3-man play from Kled, Nocturne, as well as the Renekton, and start to really put your Renekton ahead, then this can become a pretty nice matchup where you're threatening to dive GP. But if you don't actually have dive threat, GP will happily farm forever under turret, alt bot on cooldown, and really get into this comfort zone where it becomes so difficult to punish.
Yeah, the things you do always have to keep in mind when you look at these side lane matchups is that there's a Shen on one side as well, so you have the Nocturne 2 come in, but also Shen doesn't care about any sort of range limits on his Stand United, so any 1v1 that Zeros wants to take, especially much later on into the game when sending 2 people bottom lane could just blow open an inhibitor, is a play that GAM should be looking for in the later stages of this matchup.
And a bit awkward now for Xin on the bottom side as his first back does not net him a lost chapter, so may struggle to sustain a push on the bottom side, which will make it a lot less viable for the Shen to actually leave him alone into the tower, because if that cannon barrage goes bottom, it's so easy for a Nautilus to just point and click you down and finish the job.
One thing to note, though, is he does still have his teleport, right? Whereas LWX did commit, so we could see Xin go back for a base in a couple hundred more gold or try to just expend all the mana and maintain push and then use teleport to really get an advantage and try to lock LWX in lane.
But so far, very controlled Tien. Looking into the mid lane, obviously Kiaya very close to dismounting, but has level 6 now.
So Levi's about to hit level 6 off minions. That's why he's coming mid lane, so he can sort of cheat that. If Doinb goes in, that would be a disadvantage because Tien is behind. So now that window has opened up for Levi to make a play, and that's why we see a big trade up topside.
Zeros just popping the ult there, but won't get anything else. GFP, of course, with his ult still available. Zeros potentially a little bit too eager. Will give him priority in the lane. Will force GP under that tower, but no follow-up means GP comes out on top.
So checking in on these builds thus far, Doinb is actually going for the W max here on Malphite. He is going to be going for a Sunfire cape, and when you do hit that Sunfire, your trading becomes really, really powerful. It's super easy to actually just keep the Sunfire burn up on a minion, so you always have a grasp ready, and look for essentially these 4-second trade windows where you're getting a grasp at the start and at the end of the trade, and you almost always will come out HP positive against Kled in those types of trades.
Yeah, he is coming out positive in those trades, but when we look at actually how the lane is playing out, down a little bit in CS, a wave and a half currently at the moment. It seems like Kiaya has a lot of control over this lane as well, especially now that he has himself the Tiamat, should make clearing out the wave a whole lot easier, and that's when we look to maybe unlock these types of roams, because if Doinb's teleport is down, it's always going to be Kiaya's Kled that can get to these side lanes first, and the follow-up is always going to be late. So that's what I want to see GAM utilize in the next few minutes in this timing window where they have the ability to close the gap super, super fast.
Doinb, though, moving down to the bottom side, will not be spotted out. Now the Shen needs to walk away. Slay needs to get out of there. Has already taunted out. The Kai'Sa now coming in. Doinb, is he going to just force the ult? I don't even think he needs to, but he's going to go in and take the kill anyway. That's mine, says Doinb. I'll take that one. Nice first kill pickup.
Yeah, he's going to get the reward for the long walk down. The rotation doesn't have to be fast when it's effective.
Yeah, well, when you rotate after the enemy mid laner goes for a reset, you do then take control over the map, and that's exactly what we saw with the control ward in that Pixel Bush 2. He knew he wasn't going to be spotted on that long walk.
And I think this is one of the strongest things about FPX is when they do call for these dives, they don't really hesitate. There's no kind of waffling back and forth. Do we go for it? Do we not go for it? As soon as Doinb is in range, he's just going to ult. And you can see the ult placement was maximum range to the left that could be to still hit the Shen where he would be. So if Shen dodges back to the right, he's dead to the Kai'Sa. If he tries to flash over, he'll still get hit by the other side of the ultimate. So really well placed.
Now here comes the dive top lane. GAM want to reply here. They will see Kiaya coming over this ward, but they're coming in on the loop, and Crisp won't get there in time.
Good bit of vision immediately. The ultis are now coming out. They know the Kled's on the way, but not 100% sure. There he is. And Gimgu now trying to escape. Still alive for now. Trying to buy a bit more time. He does get taken down. Kiaya going to grab one. The Nautilus may have just given him his life. Crisp now has to walk out of this
coming.
TP burned. Ulti comes in as well. Crisp slowly but surely getting cut down. Levi not going to take tower aggro. The demount comes in. Gragas on the way up, though. Might be able to just grab a kill. That's going to do it. The fear will not proc. The knockback is there. The remount. Kiaya will get out to safety.
Still a good play, though, for GAM. They're going to be getting so many of these minions into the turret, perhaps taking down some of these turret plates. But it is LWX who is kind of the big winner here, and they're trying to redive.
Bear trap on a rope. Pulls back. Pulls up the turret. Tien overstays and gets taken out.
I love that punish for GAM. Tien wanted to go back to pick up this huge wave that was bleeding out to the turret, and he gets killed for it and doesn't even get the trade kill back. GP's now down 30 CS.
Yeah, that is absolutely rough for Gimgoon on the top side. Xin able to pick up a turret plate during that push, but at the same time, LWX had an open lane down bottom side because Doinb couldn't find the rotation. He didn't have TP, didn't have his ultimate, so GAM actually called up Slade to hold mid lane, which meant LWX on the Kai'Sa was able to funnel some gold on towards himself, and he's going to be 400 gold up in this matchup over Zen.
But in Champion Select, we talked about if GAM want to win this game, they need to open it up in the early game. And it's not 100% opened up yet, but that was an excellent start for the team overall, and I think they're more than happy to give up some gold to the Kai'Sa in exchange for a play like that.
You've also got to look back to their previous game where they got absolutely demolished by FPX. It was the fastest game of the tournament, and this is a competitive game we have here. The gold is fairly even. No dragons have been taken on either side, so I think GAM can be pretty happy with how they have performed thus far.
Yeah, and as we're looking at those gold differences, it's 700 in the lead for FPX, but there's actually a 700 gold lead between these two supports. Crisp is up that 700, so not going to be the most effective there as he unlocks the fully completed support item, but won't be that much of a difference when we look at the real carries on this team, which are going to be the solo laners and the junglers.
Now
and the ADCs too. Everyone besides the supports, really.
A lot of damage threats in this game, or an ult threat if you're Doinb in the mid lane. But Cloud Drake will go over. TB now being used bottom lane. Tien can make his way in, of course. Checking in on the rest of the matchup. As predicted, double Ninja Tabby, I think to the surprise of no one. Triple AD top side does make that a pretty ideal buy.
Yep, and when Levi wants to look for more and more dives, the map now gets split. They're going to be even more valuable.
There we go, the TP has been used, so the GP ult is up and available. He's now trying to run. Hasn't used the oranges quite yet. Malphite's on the way in, he gets locked up. Not quite under the tower, however. Zeros does look like he's going to make it out. The Shen now coming in. Are they going to commit to this play? Doinb now stepping forward, but out of mana, and they are going to back off.
Doinb's teleport was so damn fast there to be able to actually sense the dive and get it off before the Nocturne ult actually locked him out of being able to teleport into that top side. That was incredible.
But can GAM get more off this? Here comes Kiaya. There's only 2 under the tower.
On the way in, that's the charge. Doinb first in line to get knocked out, and it looks like he might just be able to get out. Flash burning down. One more under the tower. Will anyone drop from the side of GAM? GAM doing his best to outplay, but there's simply too many members. Kled gets the reset on the tower aggro. He will grab the 1-for-1 in the end. 2-for-1 in the favor of GAM.
GAM winning out huge right there. They lost the tower, and they must force that play in the top side of the map. They get the kills, only trading one back, and the hope is that they can knock this down, but plates still do a lot, and here comes Crisp.
Tien buying a bit more time, knocks the reaction into the tower, but he hasn't taken aggro.
Here's Crisp. He has ulti.
Crisp wants to get something done here. Zeros dashes right through. They're trying to use Tien out. Reman saving his life. Tien, though, still is just going terribly. GAM, oh no! Slay has to run. He has to flash. The hook still lands. That is disaster. A few more seconds. Tick, tick, boom, and he is out of there.
Not a very effective timepiece there from Slay as he is going to fall down right after it, but great roams here from FPX, and in the long run they do get more because they got the bot side turret and are able to trade back kills in the long run, but GAM is really turning up the heat here and playing very, very aggressively.
It's such a heartbreak for GAM, though, because the initial fight goes so well for them, bringing up 4 members, landing the taunt onto a manaless and ultless Doinby, and then they're able to use the Kled to first pull aggro, reset it when he comes out of that mount, and then here's where it all goes wrong, because Tian has the stopwatch and Crisp is on the way. You'll see the rest of FPX actually make this full rotation up here to keep him alive.
Yeah, you can see Tien call Crisp up. You know, last time he tried to actually defend the turret, he knew GAM was looking for that redive, and the Nautilus showing up was so critical. Ultimate across, the slows, and really once Kiaya was pushed out, there wasn't a ton of damage kind of left in this squad to be able to finish off Tien and the turret.
And to add insult to injury, that tower survives with just a sliver of HP. Plates are going to go down in 20 seconds, and they're not going to be able to cash that in.
So difficult. But this looks just like the GAM game that we saw versus J-Team. Repeatedly forcing the plays. The issue is, it's much earlier in the game, and FPX are ready to party. They're ready to go. They don't mind losing 1 or 2 members. They are taking objectives on the other side of the map, and the ticking time bomb for the side of FPX now is this Kai'Sa, who just continues to get so much gold in the midst of all these plays.
Yeah, Kai'Sa really has been the beneficiary. Has not had to join for these fights whatsoever, has only been TPing back to lane, farming the up, taking the turret plates out, and does have already a 1,600 gold lead over the Heimer. So that's a very big deal, and LWX is always kind of that late game insurance for FPX in the LPL.
Yeah, he definitely is here. And what I'm looking for between these 2 bot laners, because we've sort of explained it, the priority in going for the initiation is going to be on the top side of the map for sure for these 2 teams. But I'm looking at, when does a Zhonya's come through for these 2? Is this going to be the AP Kai'Sa? I think it should be, when you have like Gimgoon doing a lot of physical damage here. And I just think the value of having Zhonya's against the dive is going to be so critical for either of these 2 carries.
I think that's a great point, because to me, the biggest advantage AP Kai'Sa has is all the defensive itemization. There's so many options, and the other marksmen really don't have the ability to go in for something like a Zhonya's, where if you're getting Nocturne ulted, you just press the button before the damage even hits you, and all of a sudden Nocturne is kind of screwed. Yeah,
and with a Nashor's Tooth for that CDR, you can, turbo your way towards 40%. Then all of a sudden you have, that invisibility on your E super quickly.
And a bigger ult shield.
Yeah, and you can get it multiple times within fights, and that can really disrupt all these divers and fighters that if they can't be on top of you, they really are ineffective.
Sounds like a pretty good champion.
Yeah.
She can do it all,
guys. Going for
Guys is very strong. The defensive options for sure, and also you're looking at an enemy team who are going to build a lot of health, as you see, but not a ton of resistances. Black Cleaver, Shojin, probably another Black Cleaver coming in for Levi, but no armor, no magic resist really to back it up quite yet outside of the Tabby, so she's just going to shred everyone.
Yeah, the plasma passive may be a little bit effective against people that build a lot of HP. I think we've determined that Kai'Sa does it all, folks.
This is the Kai'Sa show, is what it turns out. But now I'm just kind of waiting. Doinby now level 11. Can look to set up some of these ults, can fish for these big plays, and GAM have to be careful.
Wait no more. Infernal has spawned, and I think we are pretty much guaranteed to get a fight.
Oh,
GAM
there we go. Fishing for the pick on the support. Instantly dies. LWX grabs that one.
I was just about to say, GAM coming into this fight with 3 stopwatches, have a lot of utility power, get their first items completed too, but when FPX find a pick, it should be easy pickings for them now. Levi, well, they're going for the 45.
They still want to force the play anyway. There's a TP coming in. They're at a man disadvantage. They're trying to use the Heimer to set up. It's going to be a grenade bouncing across, only hitting 3. Zero's on the backside. The Renekton needs to get into the fight. He's moving in. LWX, all that gold. It's not going to matter. He gets shaken down. That's going to be massive now for GAM. They're turning the fight anyway. They're not concerned. They had the Shen ult. Slay is moving in. The dash forward. Crisp just now making out 60, but he misses a hook. He hooks the wall. Is he going to escape? A little bit of damage. It doesn't matter. Crisp may not die, but the rest of the team surely will. Goes in. Kiaya, the D-mount. The barrel to force it out in the end.
Crisp is still alive.
Yeah, and FPX is pushing mid lane. GAM is just chasing for this.
Oh, Spider Knot. Oh, man. Peter Parker, is that you?
He has no more mana. Does he have enough for 1 Q?
There's a tower there. Zeros, you can't do this.
My.
You can't do this.
No, he's so tilted. He's so tilted.
No.
They lost their mid tier 1 during that chase, so they do get a couple kills, but FPX takes the mid tier 1, they get a kill for themselves before the fight, and they get the Infernal, and that's the critical piece of information.
I mean, GAM, they knew they were really strong coming into this fight. Level 11 there, you see, on Kiaya. And without the TP from Gangplank being faster, they're able to find this initiation where they instantly stun up LWX and do take him down. And then FPX have to run because they can't actually turn in fight without that sustained DPS from the backline.
Yeah, Kiaya played that fight really, really well, landing the Joust onto LWX, then waiting for the second activation till after LWX flash to be able to follow through. And I mean, this is the stuff Tilt is made of. Between the Nautilus getting away and that.
Oof. Why'd he throw his Q down instead of up. If he throws it up, it either hits him or he has to kite back down into for an auto attack.
It was a high effort play, Ender. Not very successful and has to be frustrating. They could have had 2 more kills in their favor. The gold could have been somewhat balanced out, but now this Herald is going to have to be clutch for the team because they do need to catch up here. These plays, despite looking like they're going in their favor, they're still falling behind in gold overall.
Not going to be able to find the tower with the Rift Herald either. And you remember the last time they were playing the Nocturne plus Kled combination? It was that game against J-Team where they just kept forcing the same team fight over and over again, but weren't able to find kills because that mid lane tower was still up. That meant they couldn't fully chase forward and make the dives happen. Granted, they were on red side in this game, but this is going to continue to be a problem for them if they can't find that tower because they only have 1 ranged character to actually siege it down.
Does become very difficult, but one thing working for them is the amount of neutral objective damage they are going to have here with the Heimer especially. Heimer can threaten things like Baron very well, so if you do get that one really good team fight where you're coming in from multiple angles and LWX dies right off the bat, you could maybe turn that into a Baron, and all of a sudden the gold lead won't mean much for FPX. But on the other side, the LPL squad really just wants to continue to spread the map to make sure that anytime GAM goes for a play, they're losing something for it, that you're going to have to pay the tax of a tower. You're going to have to pay that tax of the minions dying in that bottom or top lane.
And even when the fights do start to come in, now I'm seeing responses and itemization from FPX. It is going to be that Zhonya's build coming through from LWX. He's not even going for the Nashor's Tooth, which is so often the 3rd item here on the AP Kai'Sa. Instead, he realizes he needs the stopwatch now. That'll be up for the next team fight. And then after that, the next team fight, he should have the money for the Zhonya's Hourglass. And this really limits how GAM is going to be able to try to play out these fights, because if they can't dive and find that initial kill, then they have to rely much more on falling back onto the damage that Xin can put out.
You definitely do, and I would love to see Doomby go for something like a Frozen Heart next. The CDR very valuable for the ultimates, and also, there's 3 people who are fairly auto attack reliant here on the GAM squad. Between your E and the Frozen Heart aura, you can really frustrate a lot of the things that they are trying to do. And as you said, I mean, if you're not actually killing off LWX at the start of the fight, the consistent damage coming out of that squad is going to really outpace what GAM can do.
I mean, just look at the money right there from LWX, 9K now on that Kai'Sa, most in the game by far here. And Kiaya is the only one that's really coming close in terms of the rest of gold that GAM does have on the map here. And you know, we mentioned it before, it's really difficult now that Malphite is just hard stacking all this armor. Same thing for Crisp. Those frontline targets not looking so hot.
And it's kind of a good news, bad news when you look at the Kai'Sa, because as you mentioned, she's going to be a lot harder to kill with the Hourglass, but her damage output is also going to be a lot lower because she did not opt to go for the Nashor's Tooth 3rd. We'll make sure that that E-Evolve does not come through. Might get the W, but not going to be too consequential in the fights to come. So for now, seeing GAM kind of pushed into a corner here, looking for an arena to force a fight against FPX, but they're just very content to split up the map.
This could be an opportunity for an ultimate here for Levi if he wanted to look to the bot side, but ulting to the bot side at this point of the game can be very, very risky with FPX having some vision in the pit, having the ability to go there themselves, especially with this Kai'Sa, who can really burn through that objective very quickly.
I think that GAM would love for FPX to make their way down towards that Ocean Drake and potentially contest them in the 5v5, but that doesn't seem to be the idea here from FunPlus whatsoever, because even though GAM are down, 2,500 gold at this point in the game, I don't really feel like time is their ally when, you have a full AP Gragas on the other side, and now we see the TPs come through.
It'll be coming in, Levi going to be forced to flash out. Kind of setting up, they're going to deny a lot of the vision that GAM were hoping to place. Have much better control over the pit, of course, with the scuttle up as well as the control ward in the pit. They won't be able to take it yet, and instead they're moving down to the Drake here.
Yeah, and I think they just feel they have enough vision around the Baron to guarantee that it can't be snuck. So even if GAM comes over here, they will have time to respond. So now there's not really going to be any cost to actually grabbing that Ocean Dragon.
Yeah, at most, they're going to lose a wave up here on the top side of the map. Kiaya should not be able to knock this tower all the way down, even if he does get a whole lot of attack speed off of that W passive here, but instead will have to back away. And it feels like FPX have done a very good job of controlling the entirety of the map. Yes, they do lose, windows where GAM can create some pressure, but the fact that FPX can use one TP to run through that river, put down some vision of their own to make sure that GAM can't sneak away the Baron, then transition that all the way into the bottom side of the map, you're going to see this team that doesn't rely on split push whatsoever use their TPs just to get those quick resets off so they don't have to give any time over to the enemy team to have pressure themselves.
And something that I love that we're seeing from Kiaya is just constantly hovering in Fog of War, trying to be a nuisance, looking potentially for a play setup, happy to keep those waves pressed in on the top side. Of course, those opportunities are going to be fewer and far between as the defensive items do start to come in across the map. You've got the Gragas with the Zanyas, you have the Kai'Sa with the Zanya, so hoping for this one-shot kill onto someone to start a fight becomes less and less viable.
Yeah, Gimgoon has oranges for any possible stun, also has the Sterix coming through there for that defensive shield, and top of the tabbies, Doomby is full tank, so it does become very, very difficult to actually find a good target here to burst down. You almost have to force out a cooldown initially.
Here we go. Never mind. Said they're going right onto the tank. That is absolutely not the target they wanted. They're still going to burn everything anyway. He's going to hurt him right into the middle of the team, and now the rest of the team is running in. LWX going to have a field day. All the major cooldowns burn. The Kai'Sa can just walk right into the face of the opponent.
Doomby just stepped into the middle of the Kled ult and said, all right, come at me. Levi ults into him very graciously and isn't even able to dent his health. That should be Baron for FPX.
I mean, GAM without any ultimates, how do they contest this? They're going down.
It's going over the wall. Kiaya, that was not the play that you wanted. Will not get enough time to remount, maybe, if he comes out. Pocket pistol could be enough. Won't get a chance. Shut down now from LWX. FPX should be able to shred through this Baron quite quickly. They have the Rage Blade on the Kai'Sa.
Levi is alive, but no flash, no ultimate to get into the pit. They're just going to try to walk it in. Good block from Zen.
Fantastic block. Chris getting lower, Tian getting lower. Maybe they can stop this from happening. Now has to retreat here. The rest of the team pulling out. Zeros running away, but LWX just gets to walk through the entire team. Zen gonna get the setup. The Gragas grabs the kill. That's gonna be 2. And now Zeros has to run for the hill. Slay running into enemy territory just to try and survive. FPX absolutely dominating, but they will not get the Baron.
FPX are just happy to chase down for more and more kills here, blowing open the gold lead. Now support Slay being chased here by the 5-level lead of Gimgoon. Can he catch him with the movement speed? I think he can. Oh.
Just keeps getting the movement speed off the barrels. I think he's going to give up the chase, though. Would rather have the creeps.
Yeah, Slay should be able to escape here, especially with Kiaya coming in. But it is more gold in the pockets of FPX. So yes, GAM does defend that Baron and stop what could have been a potentially game-ending play. But they are falling further and further behind. The Nashor's nearly complete here for LWX. His 4th item soon to come through.
Well, it just feels like with many of GAM's drafts, they draft one way to win the game. And that's not necessarily a problem when you do that one thing better than your opponents. You know, in the game against J-Team, they had a hard team fight initiation comp very similar to this one. But it was very clear that they were going to win every team fight, and it was just a matter of time that they would come out on top in this game. Now, in this game, they're going for the hard 5v5 one more time, but the backline power of LWX combined with the tankiness of Doomby just absolutely turns it out of their favor, and now they just have to keep forcing fights or they lose.
Exactly. Doomby is just going to walk straight at you in every single team fight and try to force these carries to actually be attacking him so he can absorb this damage and buy time for the rest of the members on the team. And FPX here knows they don't need to risk anything. They are scaling incredibly well into the late game, so they are always going to turn. They are never going to give an opportunity for Levi to sneak in that pit and maybe 50-50 a Baron.
And just such now a mountain to climb. Waiting, hoping to find a single isolated member of FPX to potentially catch out. Anyone not named Doomby. You can see over the course of the game, yes, there were some moments where GAM was, you know, going toe-to-toe, finding advantages, but for now it's a massive lead. Once again, though, they're going to try to find the engage on the Crisp. He will get pulled back. GP off to the side, fishing for that big barrel. To go for anything else, but now the entire team fight is split. Slay walking forward. Can they get anything else? LWX uncontested on the backside, doing so much damage.
Coming.
Doomby on the side.
Get it. Oh! That's going to be a 3-man knockup. It's everything you want. An unstoppable force, a perfect ability for a team this dominant. So they just run right into the pit. They might even, I'm going to turn for Zen. They just set their sights on the Baron.
Yeah, straight into the Baron pit. This one should be theirs. Easy peasy. GAM, as you said, only one way to win the game, and it didn't work out here. Not finding the targets they need because FPX is not presenting them. It's always a tank in the front line to absorb that initiation. And when LWX is free and when Doomby gets a flank like that, you have no chance.
Oh man, FunPlus, they're just luring them in. Look juicy, Chris. That's all Doomby's telling them. And then he just laughs in their face with that flank.
And honestly, this just gets harder. This is, Doomby's not there. You start off on a potentially weaker member, but no one is finding anything in this fight.
I mean, how many ultimates are you going to use to try and pick off Crisp with LWX going completely untouched?
I also really liked how Tian actually played out this fight. Instead of trying to dive back, he just split the team. He ulted out the Shen, kind of created this zone of control so Xin could not pile in and join up with the rest of the squad. And if he can't get there, that's so much of their consistent damage. And here they go!
Goes in, Levi tries to body block with the spell shield, will be able to make it out to safety. Saves Slay's life in the process, but has to give up his own flash. Now FPX is starting to push into the mid lane. They're looking to break open the base. It should be an easy task for them. GAM, can they make the hold?
LWX even has the Zhonya's plus stopwatch here. They're going full power inside of the base. You can never kill this guy. And with 5 members strong, they just run and break straight through that inhibitor.
And this much armor on Doomby, he can just turret tank forever. They're going in.
He doesn't even care who he hits. One man. A fine target there for the Unstoppable Force. Doomby focusing instead on clearing out the towers, the only source of magic damage. The only thing that he is concerned about in these fights is the Heimerdinger. No one else can hurt him.
Zero's coming back. He's on the red buff. There comes the teleport for FPX. They're not slowing down.
They're trying to start the fight. They're using the ultimates left and right. Can they get anything done? But it looks like nothing is having an effect. The Gargoyles don't play. Doomby just making sure that nobody will go down. The Kaisa, untouched, only has to use both Zhonyas to survive, but that's all it's going to take. Zero's pulled out of his own fountain and knocked into the ground. That's the double kill for FPX. It'll be the game, and it is a show of force from the LPL first seed.
Third straight win now for FPX in the group stage after faltering in their first game to J-Team. They really are ramping up, and you're starting to see what a juggernaut this team really can be.
You're seeing them punish every single little mistake to come through from a team like GAM here, and specifically like pulling out the fun picks too. This is what we were waiting for from Doomby on the international stage. This time it is the Malphite in the mid lane, which just looked beautiful.
I think it was so clever. For as much criticism as he received for that Sion pick, here's another tank. This is his style, and he really made it work. It was a great answer to the Kled, so effective in team fights, and it gives you that rock wall to absorb every Kled ultimate.
Literally.
And the thing is, if anyone was going to have a counter pick to Kled mid, it would be Doomby. If anyone could play a counter pick to Kled mid, it'd be Doomby. And that's just such a bold move from Kiaya. And as good as some of those early dives topside looked, we always knew eventually the Malphite was going to be unkillable.
That's the problem with playing a champion into someone who is known for that champion. They have played all the frustrating matchups. He has, I'm sure, lost to Malphite many a time.